Hey guys, it's Lauren Lando from Elite Sports Services with another segment of our interview sessions. Today I have Ron Mckeefery with me today. Excited to have Ron on. I was on his podcast probably about 6-8 months ago, and really at about that time when he had me on, we started this idea with Elite Sports Services as well. And I told Ron, I said, I'm going to have you on because you are the man. Currently, Ron is the head strength and conditioning coach at Eastern Michigan. And, Ron, I know you've been a lot of places. I know you've been pro baseball, pro football, college football, um, I believe in the military as well.
Correct, yeah.
So I want to get to all that and how your chronological story played out. But I really want to find out, and I do with everybody on this, what got you involved in strength and conditioning yourself personally?
Well, hey, Laura, I appreciate you having me on, man. It's quite an honor. And you're definitely a guy that I look up to and respect in this profession. And so first, let me say thanks for that.
I
But
appreciate it.
my story is probably much like anybody that's listening. I mean, I was a self-made athlete. Um, I just recently, put out a book, and in that book, I kind of laid out my entire story, and it was kind of a humbling experience to kind of go back and just really kind of pinpoint that moment that I chose to kind of go down this path. But I traced it all the way back to I grew up in a single parent home, 5 kids. My dad was a Navy man, came back from Vietnam with post traumatic stress disorder and lots of issues, and so we grew up pretty rough. I mean, I grew up most of my athletes, and single parent, low income homes, and so there was a day when we were living in kind of a bad part of Kansas City, and I didn't feel comfortable walking home, and so I went the long way, and when I went the long way, I stumbled across a football practice, and we didn't have money for football, anything like that, and I walked in, and the coaches must have sensed that I was kind of feeling a little uneasy, so they let me stick around, and there was a quarterback that was in the middle of the field, and he threw the ball. He's like, just wanted to kind of interact with me a little bit, and he threw the ball, and the ball went right through my hands and hit me in the nose and bloodied my nose. And I was like, man, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world that this guy could throw a football that far. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a quarterback, and that it took until 8th grade to where I got a chance to play organized sports. And went to high school, and the deal, man. You get to high school, and there's like 6 quarterback. Everybody wants to play quarterback, and I'm the only one that didn't even really play youth football. And I beat them all out and just worked hard. And did the same thing. Was first to go to to play college sports, and said wanted to be a college athlete, and really used the weight room to do that. And so. Decided that I also wanted to, be one of the first in my family to kind of really have a legitimate degree. So I got a biology degree. Was going to go to medical school. That was the plan, and figured out that I didn't like cutting on live people.
Right.
Dabbers was okay, but live people I had a problem with. So I was back to the drawing board, and somebody recommended strength and conditioning. And I went to a small school, so that we didn't have a strength coach. Our coaches were our strength coaches, and yet even at this small school, I think there's 7 or 8 of us that are D1 or better strength coaches out there, and they still don't have a strength coach.
Wow.
Mike Clark for the Washington Redskins is a former graduate. And so, somebody had recommended that, and I thought, man, this is great. I get to be around sports and wear gym shorts all day long, and coach. And I love the coaching aspect of it, the football aspect of it, but I didn't like the recruiting. I didn't like the salesy kind of, that deal. I didn't like really watching film, but I really enjoyed the daily touching and interacting with athletes. And so strength and conditioning was kind of a natural fit. And then long story short, I went to the Kansas City Royals as an intern. They're in the World Series now, so fired up about them. And
You know what? I saw that, and I was wondering how you were feeling about that. Game
yeah, no,
one
fired up,
tonight,
man.
right?
Fired up. It wasn't the case back then. we had a long way to go before that was the case. But yeah, it got a chance with the Kansas City Royals, and then I wanted football my whole life, and so I got another internship with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Worked my way up into an assistant role there, and became a head strength coach over in NFL Europe with the Berlin Thunder. And when I came back, there was a startup football program, college program in Tampa. And when you went to NFL Europe, you kind of gave up your job with the ball club you were with. So I gave up my job with Tampa. Came back, and there was a job with University of South Florida, and they just started the program. Pretty much brand spanking new. And that's kind of where I grew up as a coach. I was there for 10 years. We went from non-existence to, 6 straight bowl games and a number 2 ranking at one point and all that. I grew with the university. I grew as a strength coach with the university. And there was a coaching change. I got kept on, but it wasn't. I didn't necessarily handle that situation the right way. Looking back on it, I wasn't. I was really kind of tuned off to the change. But I got kept on, but I decided to kind of get out, and
Okay.
so I took the special forces job, and that was going to allow me to work with an awesome population, but also allow me some opportunity to kind of to build out that entrepreneurial side of me during that time, and got about just a couple months into that job, and got a call from Tennessee, and long story short, again, they offered me 1 year, they offered me 2 years, and they offered me 3 years. Turned down the 1 and the 2, but couldn't turn down the 3,
Right.
and took the job, and came in year 2 of Coach Dooley's time there, and just we were getting it turned around behind the scenes, but in SEC football, if you're not winning in 3, you're out, and that's what happened. And so I took a job with the Cincinnati Bengals, going back to the NFL, and then kind of coming full circle. When I was a junior, we went 1-9 in college. My senior year, we went 9-1, and we brought in a new coach, and it was a first time head football coach, 26 years old. I was a 21-year-old senior, and we ended up going 9-1. Well, that coach is the head coach at Eastern Michigan now,
Wow.
and so we've been like brothers ever since. And I came here to kind of help build this thing and turn it around, and it's been a challenge, but it's been fun.
Well, you know what? That last part that you just said, I mean, that gave me goosebumps because I always tell my young coaches and my interns, this industry is about relationships.
No
And,
doubt.
and you just summed that up right there. The coach that you had when you were finishing up college turns out to be the coach who now you're working with now. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
So a couple things that really jumped out at me in there. I saw somebody posted this thing on to see your switch from maybe medical school to coaching, and I saw somebody had posted. Actually, it's one of my current athletes posted. He's playing up in Canada, and he posted on Instagram. It said, "A coach will affect more lives in 1 year than most practitioners will affect their whole life." And to me, that really jumped out at me as like how profound and really how big of an opportunity we have as coaches. And it's cool for you to maybe see the path that you took where maybe you turned away from medicine, where you can no doubt help people, but turn
Right.
around and help more people that in turn help other people. What a cool give back job. And it seems like obviously you've made the right decision with all the success you've
Well,
had.
and if I could expand on that a little bit, what was cool in that, and what I really took from that was, I didn't necessarily, when I was growing up, even though coaches were the ones that had the impact on me. I mean, they were kind of a de facto father in a lot of respects.
Mhm.
But getting into it, when I got into college, I was like, okay, I'm going to get a real job. I'm going to get a noble job. I'm going to get
Right.
one of these high paying,
Prestigious, right?
yeah, everybody's going to think that I'm a smart guy. And, and it took me being, getting out and getting into coaching to really truly respect the profession and how the nobility that's there with it. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I affect so many lives in so many ways. And when we train leaders, um, when we I tell our athletes every time they walk into the weight room, they have the opportunity to get better. And
Absolutely.
It's a microcosm of life. They have to come in with a plan, and they have to, that plan, it's not always going to go the way they want it to go. And they have to work together, and they have to set goals, and they have to deal through adversity, and they have to handle success and failures. And it all happens in one little workout, you
Right.
know. And so by developing those skill sets, those are the people that, all of a sudden you put a wall in front of them. And, a lot of people in this world, they approach that wall and they throw their hands up and they're like, oh, there's a wall, I mean, what do you want me to do? And somebody that's an athlete looks at that wall and they're like, okay, well,
Do I
I'm either
go
going to go
through
right
it,
or I'm going to
above
go
it?
left. I'm going to go over it, or you know what? I'm going to back up and I'm going to run through the damn thing. And those are the people that change the world,
Yep.
you know. And so we got a very noble profession that we're in, and a great opportunity and a great responsibility.
Well, a great responsibility, and I think it may have been you or Joe Ken who had tweeted out a couple months ago that one of the biggest transferring effects of the weight room is confidence, and the
Yeah.
confidence that you can ultimately give this person. To your point, you started this workout; it's a microcosm of life, and you may have started this workout poorly, or you may have had difficult patches within the workout, but you finished it, you found a way through, and here you are, solving even bigger problems. I think that's why, not to veer off the subject too much, but I know a lot of big-time corporations who solely look for college athletes to hire.
Sure. No, I couldn't agree with you more.
So I want to talk about something. You said it in your introduction very humbly. You said that at a point in time, the USF program went to number 2 in the country. Okay, so let's look at that. If you look at the different schools in Florida, right? Florida State, Florida, Miami, and here you guys are clawing and scratching, right? Clawing and
Right.
scratching, and look what you guys were able to accomplish, right?
Absolutely.
And I love it because it shows me how much it's about leadership. Maybe you lost recruits in that state, but it's about leadership and it's having a common goal. That's really cool, and I wanted to highlight that, Coach.
No, I appreciate it. I talk about it again all the time. I tell our players here, because so many times you take over as a strength coach, you take over situations where things weren't going the way that they wanted to go. That's why coaching changes happen sometimes, and it's all about creating a culture about what you're trying to accomplish. And no lie, the very first game we played at South Florida when I was there, we walked out in the big Raymond James Stadium, big stadium, NFL stadium, and I'm on the sideline, and my wife is up in the stadium in the stands reading a book. And so from the sideline, I yelled up to her and told her, I'm like, hey, look, put the book down. We're about to play a football game. And she could hear me. That's how empty it was. And, by the time we left, we were selling that thing out, and people were lining up around buildings to get tickets, and beating Miami. I mean, you couldn't find a T-shirt. You couldn't find a South Florida T-shirt. Now, you're beating Miami and you're beating Florida State, and you're just having lots of success. And the only thing that changed, I mean, was having belief before it happened.
Yep.
And believing that and then staying the course and putting in lots and lots of work, and
Yep.
so it wasn't done with any one person, that's for sure, but it was, obviously it was just a lot of hard work, but more importantly, it was creating a culture of belief that really kind of spurred that.
Right, and all coaches have got to create that culture of belief, but the strength coach in particular, you have more contact time with these athletes than any other coach on that staff, correct?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah, every day.
So you're the barometer. You're the one that's setting the gauge for that team. So talk about what you were able to do in that time. It's awesome to see, and it's just cool to hear your story. How it started out as an empty stadium and just filling that thing out. So that's
Yeah,
that's
it
great.
wasn't me, but absolutely had a part, and the fun part is even for my own benefit and all, my own experience was really being a part of something where you built it from the ground up, and knowing that your wildest dreams could be accomplished with just a little bit of elbow grease, and that's and so yeah, it doesn't always go the same way. I mean, we were 2-10 last year. Right now, we don't have a great season going right now either. But behind the scenes and internally, we're building something that's going to lay a solid foundation for the future.
Well, I think to your point too, when you were recapping on the time in Tennessee, you just didn't have enough time. The ground floor was being set, and you didn't have enough time, and that's the hardest thing. As a strength and conditioning coach, you may be implementing a lot of right strategies, and just some things just don't go your way on the field on Saturday or Sunday, and next
Absolutely.
thing you know, it costs everybody their job. And you can be one of the best strength and conditioning coaches. It's irrelevant at that point if things just aren't falling your way. You talked about creating a culture. Okay, I had a chance to hear you present at Coaches Conference in Louisville this past year,
Yeah.
2015, and you were doing a from the field on movement specifics. And I'm telling you, the one thing that I absolutely love these days, anytime I go visit coaches, I love to see interaction of the coach and their coaches. Well, you did a phenomenal job of doing that in that from the field presentation. You had a couple things. I'm going to talk about this because I loved it. You set up this. I was watching you, and you guys set up on the front end. You debriefed with all your coaches, and I think some of them maybe were coaching somewhere else, but they came in and helped for demonstration purposes. And you guys debriefed as a group. You were breaking down the game plan of exactly what you wanted them to do. You got into your lecture. You're doing your presentation, and boom, it was like clockwork. And it was super cool to see. So to me, that's the culture. There's got to be somebody who's putting everything in motion and putting the plan together. Can you talk a little bit about, obviously I saw a microcosm of what you do on a daily. Talk to me how you work with your coaches currently at Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, I wish I could say that, through my years, I've been this fantastic manager that had something like that going everywhere I've ever been. But there's a difference between being qualified and being experienced.
Hmm.
And I think, again, I talk about it in my book. There's three levels. There's technician, there's manager, and there's entrepreneur. And you got to be great at all three to be a great strength coach, I think. And the managing part is by far the hardest part. That's by far the hardest part. I mean, I'm not proud of it, but I did it. I literally fired somebody for not coming in during a hurricane,
Yeah,
and, and I ended up hiring him back, but I was reluctant. I can tell you that much.
absolutely.
But, what I've learned through the years in my experience is that, when you invest in people and you really truly invest in them in all areas, not just professionally, but in their personal life and in their professional life and even spiritual life, you're going to get somebody that really would cut off their right arm, to help you out,
Absolutely.
and I think that you combine that with having structure. People will excel when there's structure in place. And it's the same thing with our athletes. With our athletes, I mean, again, I was a coach that when an athlete showed up 5 minutes late, I've thrown a 45-pound plate at a kid for being 5 minutes late before. Now I'm not proud of that, but I did it, and now I'll take the time to go over and find out what's going on. Why were they late? It doesn't change the expectations and it doesn't change the accountability. But rather than let emotion drive the train,
Hmm.
now it's just a matter of fact. It's like, here, this is our expectations. Now you're not meeting the expectations, but let me understand why, so that I can make a decision on how we're going to hold this accountable. And when you provide structure and they already know what's in place, hey, look, you know the deal, right? You're late. It's just like a 5-yard penalty. You're going to do your 50 up downs, and the team's you're going to do 100, and the team's going to do 50. But that's what we do, you know. And but the minute that you introduce emotion into it, that's when you have problems. When the
Yeah.
train can get derailed. And I think it's the same thing with our coaches. I mean, with that, I appreciate you saying all that, because it really, we work hard to kind of have a structure and a system in place to where our coaches can maximize where they're at in their career. So whether or not some of those guys were interns, there was a couple GAs in that group, and then there was a couple assistants. And going into it, I was like, hey, look, I told the OCA, we're going to get everybody involved, because by them doing that,
Yep.
those guys, they were ready to pee their pants,
They
going
were
and
excited.
yeah, they go in front of that many people and speak. But you know what, man? They all walked away from that a better strength coach.
Yep.
And that's where, by pouring it and investing in your people and raising them up, a rising tide raises all ships, and so, I appreciate that. We do a lot. We meet a lot. We definitely define specifically what their responsibilities are, and we hold each other accountable. And I think sometimes you walk into situations. We walked into a situation here where you kind of want to be everybody's friend and everybody's on the same level. And in college athletics, I think that happens a lot because you might be the head strength coach for football, but then the basketball, they kind of run their own deal, and baseball kind of runs their own deal, and all that. So everybody kind of acts like they're the same, and you don't ever want to put yourself in a hierarchy in terms of like I'm better than you, but there needs to be a structure and a hierarchy in place to where people know their roles, and by having that clearly defined, you can help each other out in those times when you need growth.
Absolutely, and I think to your point, I mean, people do crave structure. As much as sometimes they don't like to be put in the box, they do crave structure a lot of the times that I've seen. And I think to your point as well, at the end of the day, our job becomes we're accountability coaches, right?
Absolutely.
This young man who's maybe showing up 5 minutes late to workouts, like it's a bigger habitual thing that you're trying to help maybe guide him and say, look, as you become a mature adult, like you may not make it to the NFL, and if you do, you're going to get fined heavily for being late to these meetings or to practices or workouts. But whether you go on to whatever career in the business world, timeliness and having a purpose for what you're doing in your day, it's a habit.
Right.
And we're there to help kind of give those kids the backbone. So I love to hear your story and how you've evolved as far as how you deal with it. But to your point, right? How much more now if you put your arm around the kid and say, tell me why you're late, what's going on? How much more then does he buy into probably your system of coaching as well once you kind of lend that olive branch of concern to him?
Absolutely. Well, we always say, we have a saying around here that you spell love Time, and what you love, you'll spend time on. And
Oh,
so we pour into our athletes. We pour into them in all aspects, and you got to be involved in those other 22 hours to truly have an impact on those 2 hours that you actually have them in the gym. And and so, yeah, sometimes that's hard conversations. And I think that's honestly, I think in coaching, more so than not, those are the conversations that I have with my coaches now, is that that's a lost art in having direct, difficult conversations with people, you
sure.
know, and sometimes you want to be their buddy, you want to be their friend, or it's like, okay, well, maybe we'll kind of let this slide, or we'll let that. You can't. It's got to be. There's something to be said for somebody that's going to have a tough conversation, and when the kid really knows that you believe in them and you trust, that, and you pour in them, and
Yep.
you can have those kind of conversations, and they're going to hold you in that much more high regard because of it.
Yep. And at the end of the day, they need to know that you're not you're upset that they're late, but you're more upset with their lack of concern for the goal at hand, or just who they are as a person. I had to
Right.
jump on a couple of my guys this morning for being late as well. The first thing I do is I look at my watch. I let them know that I see that they're walking in late, and it's not
Right.
because I'm trying to be your dad. I am trying to help. Have you understand how important it is to, one, take my time into consideration, and if this matters to you, show me.
Right. Right.
Hey, Coach, I want to talk to you a little bit. I opened up on our interview about your podcast, Iron Game Chalk Talk. You had me on, like I said, about 6, 8 months ago, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I got a lot of great
Awesome.
feedback after that as well. Talk to us a little bit about what what was the genesis? What originated the idea for it for you? And then just talk about a few of the other practitioners you've had on as well.
I appreciate that. Yeah, Argue Chalk Talk has been a passion project, man. It's been really cool, and it really has had um, just an awesome story in and of its own. The long story short, I was, when I got let go from Tennessee, and I was sitting there in between jobs. I wanted to go learn. I was sitting there bored. I didn't want to sit in my house, so I went and I visited as many strength coaches as I could find. And I do that anyways. I think it's an important part of the process of growing as a strength coach. But it got pretty expensive. I mean, flights here and hotel there and gas here, and so I started Skyping people, and so we're sitting there and we're Skyping. I'm Skyping one of the coaches that I know, and one of my assistants came over, and we both knew him, and so we're talking, and he said, man, this is awesome. It's like Chalk Talk session. We need to, you need to record these.
Oh,
And so that's what I did. I started recording them and put them on YouTube. And then Mike Boyle reached out and was like, man, you need to put these you need to make this a podcast. And I go, what's a podcast? How do I do that? And so he gave me some advice, and we got in on iTunes, and it's been going strong. I think we're on our 127th, 28th episode now.
wow.
It's a weekly podcast, and we've been able to, since then, monetize it. Not in, I don't make tons of money from it, but it is a source of outside income, which is great now. I think that's important to strength coaches too, to have additional streams of income. But more importantly, it's just a real, I've reached out to people to come on the show, but it's really been more organic and just kind of, hey, who's somebody you recommend, or who should we talk to next, and I've really tried to include the people that have listened to it in the process. And we've had Mike Boyle, Joe Kin, Jim Windler, we've had Louis Simmons, we've had Buddy Morris, you name it, we've probably had it on there, had him on there or her on there. Just had Don Scott. I know she just came up to your place.
She's coming in tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, you'll love Don. She's awesome. But yeah, she's a women's national soccer strength coach and performance coach. And so, we tried it. It's really open, and we just try to reach out, and the great thing that's been really eye-opening to me when I started it, it was kind of just, all right, I'm just going to talk to my buddies and share it with everybody, and it's grown to where this has no borders. I mean, it's been around the world. Top strength coaches from Australia. I know you're going down and speaking in Australia. It sounds like I might be doing that next year. There's coaches from all over England and Ireland, and it's been really cool to get that it's shrunk the world a little bit for me specifically, and it's opened me up to talking to people that I haven't normally thought to talk to, and so I've really let it kind of be organic that way.
I haven't done nearly as many of these interviews as you have. I think you might be 21 or 22, but I can tell you this. Every person that I talk to, I thoroughly enjoy hearing their story of where they got there. And to your point, like it shrunk the world.
Yeah.
And one thing that I have found is every coach I've reached out to, they're like, yeah, let me know when. There's nobody adverse to it. They all want to share their story. They all want to get good information out to other practitioners to maybe help guide the roadmap for older practitioners, younger practitioners, whatever it is.
Well, I think what you're saying in the target audience and stuff is, when you came up and when I came up, we didn't have anything like this.
No.
I mean, and we craved it. We craved the opportunity to sit down and talk to a Lauren Landau or talk to a Joe Ken or whoever, and just like one of the things I talk to with my staff about a lot, and I talk about on the show as well, is if you can learn from other people's mistakes, then you are gaining ground, or you're shortening the time it's going to take you to reach where you want to go.
Yep.
And so the young coaches that are listening, and just in general, that should be the number one question you ask a strength coach when you meet him. What's the biggest mistake you've ever made? And then that's a landmine right there. If you can avoid that, man, you just gain traction. Because I've made so many mistakes. You've made so many mistakes. If I can avoid those as a young coach, man. And I was a 23-year-old head strength coach. I mean, I was one of the youngest. I was one of the youngest strength coaches there was. I don't know, not ever, but there was. And I still feel like I was late to the game. I didn't even know about the CSCS until I was a senior in college.
Yeah, and it seems like, too, like, I think when you and I were coming up, like, I think it was hard to find information.
Absolutely.
Two, I think a lot of practitioners kind of kept the cards close to their chest, and they didn't want to say, here's what we're doing, here's what I'm doing sometimes. And
Really.
now we're finding everybody who's putting their cards out saying, here's what we do, poke some holes in it. We're having success. I don't know if you will, but take a look at what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is no secrets. We all know that,
Right.
and it's I think that's the biggest thing is there. I think there is an obligation now to kind of give back in that way.
Yep.
At least I know I feel that way. And and like you said, I mean, I'm learning. The approaches I've tried to take in my life is, no matter who I meet, no matter what circumstance, I try to take away something and learn from every single person I come in contact with, whether good or bad. Something to support an argument that I have, or support against an argument I have. But I, my paradigms have, I've had to shift paradigms so many times in my life that, and been open to a new way of thinking so many times in my life that, I've realized I don't have the answers. I'm just learning now how to ask the right questions.
How to ask the right questions. That is well put.
Yeah. That's a
Okay,
Mark Sonovich quote right there. That's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer quote.
I like that. I want to talk. We've mentioned it a couple times about your book, CEO Strength Coach. Okay, it is on my nightstand right now, next to my bed. I have not cracked it open. However, here's what I do have a couple long trips coming up, and I'm for sure.
Awesome.
I've seen everybody's feedback on your book, and I know also it's number one seller on Amazon International's bestsellers list. Is that correct?
Yeah, it has been. It's been. I'm blown away by that, first of all. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's to think that a dumbbell coach can write a book that kind of gets up there with those guys. But yeah, I think it. I wrote it because in a way that I wanted to write a book that I wish I had. When we're, again, when we're coming up. And I think that there's a lot of strength coaches that are asking the same questions right now. How do I retire being a strength coach? How do I get to that point? How do I manage this staff that all of a sudden I have? Or how do I put together this weight room when, I got $1 million budget to put together a weight room? I've managed $2,000 in my personal account my whole life, whatever. So, there's something a little bit for everybody in there, but that's what it really was the idea behind it.
Okay, where can people? Obviously, they can find it on Amazon. Do you have a personal website where people can find your book as well?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to my website, Mckeefery.com, but there is a website for the book, CEOstrengthcoach.com. You can download a free multiple chapters there. And honestly, this had zero to do with making any kind of money. This had everything to do with trying to give back to the community. I honestly thought I would sell 3 books, and I really did. I thought my mom would buy one, and maybe my wife, but it really has gone over really well, and I think, just to kind of expand on it just a little bit, it really builds out those 3 areas. The technician, I think, as a strength coach, most strength coaches get into the business, and they have a passion for training themselves, and
Yep.
so that's where all of their information goes. It's like, how can I program? What exercises can I do? What are some conditioning drills? And it's like you're sucking in all this information, and you can never get enough of it, but that's great. But you know what? The progression as a strength coach now is that all of a sudden now you're going to go become a head strength coach, or you're going to own a performance facility, or you're going to, be the director or whatever. When you get into that role, it becomes about much, much more than just writing programs. I mean, writing a program is easy. Give me this notepad, and all right, what do you try to do? Okay, here's your workout. That's easy. The hard part is managing people, managing time, managing resources, money and things along those lines, and unfortunately that's where a lot of people miss the boat. They don't know how to work well with people. They don't know how to work well with coaches. They don't know how to work well with administrators, so they get fired. And then what happens is then you're out of the business, and then you have to really, really have to take a look at things. It's like, do I want to move everywhere? Do I want to uproot my family? And a lot of people get out. There's just as many people getting out as there are people getting in, unfortunately. And so you have to develop yourself as that manager. And then the third part is that entrepreneur part. You have to be forward thinking. You have to kind of constantly sharpening the sword. You have to be, you have to create ways to generate additional income so that when you're in that situation, it's not if, it's when you get fired.
Yep.
How are you going to be able to get through that tough time? And so, I wrote the book from my perspective, and having gone through that, I don't by any means do I say that I'm a success. I think people would say that. Some people would say that, but I do feel like I'm a success because I've learned that it's not about the logo I wear on my chest. I could care less now. It's not about coaching on the spotlights or on Monday Night Football or anything like that. I'm a success because I realize my family is the ultimate team, and that I need to pour into them. I need to make sure that I'm the best technician for my athletes that are really why I do what I do, and that I can manage these situations so I can continue to do it for as long as I can. And I think I've figured that out. Now it's just trying to get as good as I possibly can in those areas, as a father, as a husband, as a coach, as a brother. And that's to me that's success.
Boom. I will clearly say that you are a success. Um, Clearly. Um, there's I can't thank you enough for all the information that you have shared with everybody today. The
Oh, this
stories
is
and how
awesome.
you got involved in the industry. But the number one thing, man, your passion rings home. I mean, I can tell when you speak from the heart, and it matters to you. And no doubt, the athletes that you've worked with currently and previously are fortunate to have spent time with you, Coach.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Likewise, brother. There's nobody that does more. And every time I've said this to several people. Every time I've walked away from one of your presentations, I feel like I'm the dumbest guy in the room. And so it pisses me off sometimes. I'll be honest with you, but you are top notch, man. This is awesome. This is a great platform, and kudos to you, man.
Thank you, Ron. Hey, let me ask you this. Anybody you want to thank out there, previous, current mentors, anything like that, man, this is your opportunity to throw it out there.
Well, yeah, there's so many, and near and far. I mean,
Yeah.
there's people that like yourself that have influenced aspects of my training, obviously. But the people that my wife and my kids, that the sacrifice that they make each and every day so that I can do what I do. Then I've had some great mentors: Tim Maxey with the Royals and Mark Hasanovich with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Chip Morton with the Cincinnati Bengals, and then the coaches that I've worked for, and the athletes that I've gotten the opportunity and blessing to work with. So too many to name,
Right.
but yeah, it's list is long, and like I said, I mean, I stand on the shoulders of giants, man. There's no question that there's other people that have been a massive part of my career.
Well, Coach Ron Mckeefery, I will not take up any more of your time. You've given so much great, valuable information, and I just want to say thank you again, my friend.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, bud.